Hi everyone, I'm Gemma Stafford, professional chef, cookbook author, and your host of Need to Know, the #1 baking entertainment podcast, where we dive into tips, trends, and tasty tidbits that bakers love most. Whether you're a long-time listener or just joining us for the first time, welcome. This week we're doing something a little bit special, a handpicked collection of our favourite moments from past episodes. These are the conversations we couldn't stop talking about, sharing, and replaying. So whether you're in the kitchen, on the go, or just here for some baking joy, this is your chance to relive the best of Need to Know or discover what makes it so beloved. So let's jump right in.
We've asked the Bigger Bolder baking community about their favorite food scents. What are the kitchen aromas that bring you back to the past and make you feel relaxed or just make you feel hungry? And here's what people had to say. They said cinnamon rolls, mulling spices, sweet potato pie, rum raisin butter tarts, fresh bread, of course, roast beef and onions, and
I get that.
apple pie.
Oh, this one made the list.
I feel seen.
Did you write that in there?
No.
Are you Ami 25 on Facebook? I love that list. And we did ask for personal stories on our Facebook. And I'm going to read this one from Marilyn on Facebook. My mum used to make Seville marmalade in January when the oranges came to Canada. The smell of orange marmalade in January was such a sunny, bright smell, reminding us that winter would end and we had spring to look forward to.
Aww,
Isn't that lovely?
That's so sweet.
That's a really nice story.
I kind of want that memory.
Yeah.
I love that. We've got someone else who wrote in the smell of apple strudel. Every time I smell it, memories of my mom stretching homemade dough across the kitchen table come flooding back.
Isn't that such a nice memory? Because it's not, it's the action. It's like, and then also of the homemade dough.
Yeah.
Like, oh, your mom, like that's
I know.
really cool. Like, whose mom does that?
I love these smells that evoke, like, you know, being at home with your family as a kid. It's really
I feel like
sweet.
George would be like, yeah, I went up at Ralph's with my mom and she bought phyllo dough.
What about you, Gemma? Do you have a food smell?
I do. I have a lot. I've had the ones that I already mentioned. But can I tell you something that it is on the savory side? Because somebody mentioned roast beef there. And I definitely, around roasted meats, get all the feels because for Sunday lunch in Ireland, my dad used to man the barbecue when we were growing up. Oh, like he did the barbecue. It was the one food thing he did. He always burnt the sausages. I mean, burnt the sausages. And I don't know whether it is actually the taste or the smell now after learning a lot from you today, but the taste of burnt sausages, which is kind of hard to do, by the way. It's really hard to like char a sausage.
Yeah, no, because they're so greasy. They just kind of keep cooking.
Oh no, it's possible. It's possible. After a few Heinekens, it's real possible. I learned years later. But the taste of burnt sausages reminds me of that time being in the house again that I grew up in the back garden, and my dad barbecuing.
Oh, that's fun.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I've got my grandmother used to live with us for a while growing up, and she would make chai. And not the fakey Starbucks chai that isn't actually real chai, but like real tea masala, boiling, and she would, boil the black tea with like equal parts milk and water, and the smell of the boiling tea, and then she would put the sugar and the chai spice in there and strain the whole thing and give me this like little cup, and it was it just had this like very spicy because there's black pepper in there and very sweet, and every time I smell it, I mean, the very first thing I think of is my grandmother and her hands and her raspy laugh. And she was just tiny. I'm small, but she was like tiny. And if she ever leaned against me, she was like as heavy as a leaf. And I miss her so much. And every time I make myself a cup of chai, I think of her.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, Ami, I'm glad you see we ended with that and not my dad's burnt sausages. My drunken dad's burnt sausages, we later learned.
Okay, Gemma, I have a question for you. From Dora on the website. She had posted, I loved golden fruit cookies made by the Sunshine Company. They had a raisin filling between pastry layers and they weren't too sweet. They were discontinued and I'm looking for a similar recipe.
Well, Dora, luckily we have it. So this is the Garibaldi biscuits, and it was your idea to make those. That was something that I grew up with. So like biscuits and tea is a big thing. So we always have all types of like dry biscuits. I remember them like as a child not being super exciting. I definitely prefer them as I'm older, but they had like sugar sprinkled on the outside. There were 2 layers of dough with like dried fruit in the middle. And actually with a cup of tea are very tasty.
Yes.
Super old school.
Yeah, very old school. And I were one, you know how I feel about raisins and desserts, like so much more delicious than I would ever. I feel like I have to just finally admit that I like raisins in baking, because every time I say this, I'm like, oh, well, I really hate raisins in baking, except for this one thing.
Yeah. That's true.
And they're good. Those are really good.
They are good.
Yeah, yummy. We have a question from Kaylana, who posted on Reddit. She said, I always use Nabisco chocolate wafers to make an icebox cake, which is another wonderful old-fashioned recipe that we didn't mention.
We love an icebox cake around here.
We do. It's so
I've only
easy.
learned of them recently.
But you know, Nabisco discontinued their chocolate wafers.
Yeah.
So she wants to know, what are suggestions for substitutions?
That's a very good question. They did. What we do to substitute is we have a chocolate, and these are very hard to come by too, chocolate graham crackers, homemade chocolate graham crackers. Those are good substitutions. And can I tell you something else? My homemade Oreos without being sandwiched together with the buttercream. Those also are really even closer to the Nabisco chocolate wafer.
Right.
And they're very flat.
Yeah.
And they would lend themselves very well to like soaking and layering and yummy.
Sure. What would you do if you didn't want to bake at all?
Oh.
I'm just asking. That's not her question. I just was wondering.
Okay. You just want to make
yeah.
my life a little bit harder on me.
No,
Then
but
Ami, you get in your car, you go to the supermarket and you buy a packet of biscuits. Is that the answer you want?
But no, okay. Well, I'm thinking like if you want to make an icebox cake, maybe you didn't want to bake. Right?
Yeah.
So can you buy chocolate graham crackers in the store? Is that a thing?
They are hard. You can. They are hard to come by. And also what you can do is like either buy cake. Buy layers of like plain cake.
And then do that.
But buy biscuits.
Yeah.
Like we made the lemon icebox cake.
With graham crackers.
We made them with graham crackers.
Right.
And we bought those graham crackers.
Right.
Because I mean, life's too short to be.
I suppose you could like scrape the cream out of Oreos.
Yeah, you could.
You could do that. And that would be your chocolate wafer.
Exactly.
So that would be another way to do it.
Yeah. So an Oreo with no cream would be a perfect way.
Yeah. Okay.
Any more gotcha questions, Ami?
No, I just wanted to know. I don't know. Like maybe the person was like, the whole point was I didn't want to turn on the oven.
No. They didn't. I don't see anything about that here. You just wanted to get me. We're going to educate and entertain and drop some serious cooking knowledge.
Okay, fine. I guess we'll talk first, or we could eat them. So like let's talk a little bit about like what goes into like a really good cookie. There's like so many different elements, and there's millions of recipes online. You could really go down the cookie hole here. I mean, and make, you go through the first 4 pages of Google and make every single cookie, and they're all going to be slightly different, and everyone's going to say it's the very best cookie, and every one of these recipes is going to have like 5,000 people saying this is the best cookie they've ever had. So, I think it really comes down to like, what do you personally like? What is your idea of the best cookie? And a lot of that is really affected by the ingredients, and cookies, the batches are small. The batches are actually like for a sturdy something like a cookie, they're very sensitive. You make one little change and it totally changes the cookie.
Yes. You say ingredients. I'm going to say technique and method.
Okay.
Okay.
I would say probably one of the main ingredients in cookies is flour. A lot of cookie recipes use all-purpose flour, which is great. It usually, all-purpose flour has about 11% protein. Good basic all-purpose flour for most things. Then you see a lot of people who want to promote like a chewiness, and they want like a more chewy cookie. They'll use bread flour either in part or as 100% replacement for the all-purpose flour. Bread flour has maybe like a 13-14% protein, a little bit higher of a protein content. And then there's some other. I don't really ever see this 100%, but sometimes people will put some cake flour in their cookies, which has a lot less protein. And that's going to give you a sort of a tender, crumbly cookie. Yeah. I have tried to make a chocolate chip cookie with all cake flour, and it is not good. I have also made a cookie with 100% bread flour,
guessing-
and it's delicious.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's good.
I'm guessing the cake flour, 100% cake flour is not giving you the good structure.
No, it kind of fell apart as you picked at it, and
Yeah,
you know, and all of that stuff. But it really is kind of wildly different. I tend to always go for just straight up all-purpose flour, which is right down the middle.
Yeah.
And I find it to be really good.
Oh, it's always a crowd pleaser.
Yeah.
When I used to work at Spruce, we used to do our cookies with what they called for you know, when you buy kind of on scale, from restaurant depots, a peak performer, which is like a bread flour. And we did ours with that. And I never understood why. And then, so this is my contribution that I wanted everybody to know about. The New York Times.
Oh, the
Jacques Torres chocolate chip cookie. In this cookie, now we'll talk about the ingredients and then separately afterwards when we talk about method. Cake flour and bread flour.
Right.
Chewier and soft.
Right.
So you're getting those two textures.
But you know what? I'm confused by the cake flour plus bread flour.
I am a little bit too.
Because the thing is, like, if you do the math and you say, like, there's, you know, cake flour, are you eating that? do not eat that. You told me I couldn't eat it. What are you doing?
I was just showing it for Joey.
Oh, okay, fine.
That sounds like what George would say. I was just smelling
You
it.
put it really close to your mouth and I thought you were eating it.
I don't get it either. I don't.
Fine.
But
You eat them at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. But well, if you do the math, and here's what I don't understand, and I feel like it maybe is different, but if cake flour is 8% and bread flour is like 14%.
Why don't you just use all purpose?
No, well, yeah, that's like 22% divided by 2. On average, is 11%, which is all-purpose flour.
I
don't understand.
I think Jacques is just getting fancy,
but maybe it's different.
But it does make a damn good cookie.
It does.
We're going to come back when we're going to do our taste testing. So one thing about the New York Times, famous, this is like one of their top recipes on the app. We can't share the recipe because it is, if you have the New York Times app, then you have access to it. An amazing cookie.
Yeah, it's really good. And the last thing I want to mention about flour, sometimes you see in bakeries now popping up rye chocolate chip cookies, which is also really nice. You don't need to do 100% rye flour. You replace a little bit of your whatever flour you use with a little bit of rye flour. It absorbs a little bit more liquid, so sometimes you get a little bit of a thicker cookie, or maybe you add in an extra egg white if you want a little more spread. But it adds a lovely sort of bitterness to a chocolate chip cookie.
A nuttiness.
A nuttiness to it, and that can really counteract a lot of the sweetness, which leads me to my next ingredient, which is sugar. For someone who doesn't like a whole lot of sweet, like chocolate chip cookies, to really get the kind of shape that you want, you really need to have almost as much sugar, if not more sugar, than flour. And you, obviously there's brown sugar, light and dark. We always go dark brown sugar. You taught me that.
Because it serves two purposes.
Yeah.
Well, because you get the sweetness, yes, but the brown sugar has more moisture.
Yes.
So it gives you that gooier center.
Right. Also has acid in it.
It has acid in it.
Right.
Yes,
So
which reacts with
our leavening,
the leavening.
which we'll get to. But like for like the purposes of brown sugar, it adds a butterscotchy flavor. It adds moisture. It helps the cookie spread. White sugar helps the cookies. It will also help the cookie spread. It caramelizes more than brown sugar, and it gives the cookies a crispy edge. So if you want a purely chewy cookie, you might want to go primarily or all brown sugar. If you want you're going for crispy cookie, you might want to go all white sugar.
Yeah.
Now, this is not always like, there's a lot of other factors that go into cookies. So this is not always 100% rule. These are just ideas. But really, those are the properties of white sugar and brown sugar.
Okay.
But then the other thing we'll talk about leavening.
Yeah.
So many chocolate chip cookies have only baking soda, which I highly recommend. But some recipes ask for baking soda and baking powder. Baking soda needs an acid to react. And you get that acid with the molasses in the brown sugar. So what baking soda will react to any cookie with brown sugar. It'll help the cookie puff up, rise a little bit. And the other thing that baking soda will do, it will help with the Maillard reaction, which allows a cookie to brown.
Yes.
So
And it also helps with the development of the crinkles.
With the crinkles, yeah.
Yes.
So one thing that I've learned with baking soda is if you like a cookie that has a gooey center,
Yes.
you want to add a little more baking soda.
Yeah, agreed.
Because you'll have like a browning on the outside and you've got that spread and that caramelization, but it will take a lot longer to cook to set the center. So you will just almost guaranteed have a gooey center. If you don't like an overly gooey center, you might want to pull back a little bit on that baking soda. So if your recipe calls for 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda, you want it to be a little gooier, add a 1/4 teaspoon more. If you want it to be a little less gooey, take out a 1/4 teaspoon. Or 1/8 of a teaspoon. Baking soda is very sensitive, but it's something you can futz with if you want to feel like you want to play around. Baking powder,
I'd say no baking powder if you like the gooey center.
Yes.
It's generally for those that American gooey cookie, crispy on the outside, gooey in the middle, you will not see baking powder.
Yes, baking powder.
We do have cookies on that. We have a chewy, it's a chewy cakey. We have a cakey chocolate chip cookie because we're talking about preference. Like, what's your preference?
Right.
My preference is gooey. But if you're the cakey kind, then baking powder is what you want in your cookie.
Right. That'll give you like a lifted, soft cookie, so that is a quality. So there are some cookies that have a balance between baking powder and baking soda, and somehow with all the other ingredients actually turn out pretty balanced.
Yeah.
So, again, not everything that I'm saying here, these are qualities to understand about ingredients, but there's nuances because of all of the other things. The last other thing I really want to mention about cookies is the fat, which is butter, oftentimes, most of the time. And butter can be browned so that you get this like really lovely nutty taste to your butter. It can be, you can have a softened butter that you aerate with the sugar, which will give your cookies lift. You can melt the butter, which will give you a denser cookie, which is a totally different kind of dense, chewy cookie. It's very thin, if that's what you want. You can replace some of the butter with olive oil, which I know you do.
Which is what I do here in my cookies. And this is like when I learned that you could, I do love cookies. I always kind of went for when I saw a cookie with a melted butter, I was like, this is my jam. And then I was looking at this whole pile of different recipes and I was like, wow, you can put olive oil into a cookie base, in a melted butter cookie, and sub it for some olive oil. And to me, I think it is genius because you've got instant flavor, you've got moisture, and you have a lovely nuttiness and a saltiness that you get from the olive oil. Now, I have nice olive oil, but I don't use anything too strong. You don't want your olive oils.
You don't want too much of an assertive olive oil.
Yeah, you don't. But you want it to add flavor. And then so it adds instant flavor. And then as you age these cookie doughs, which I'll talk about in a minute, the flavor develops and deepens and deepens.
Right.
So like I am all about adding in olive oil. Now I would not, some people ask me, can you substitute it for vegetable oil, canola oil? I say hard no. Olive oil.
Always has to be olive oil. Well, I can't wait to try those. And you just mentioned one little thing, salt. You must have salt, a well-salted dough.
Yeah.
That is, I feel like as essential as anything else. You cannot be salt on top. It doesn't, if you like salt on top of your cookie, that's fine. You do you.
Like salt on top
I don't like salt on top of my cookie, but I like a very well-salted dough.
Yeah. Oh, I know you do.
It makes a big difference.
It does. It makes a huge difference. And salt and chocolate are best friends.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
So you talked about the oil. Let me just talk about chocolate. I have a TikTok video that I released probably 2 years ago or so where I proclaimed, do not use chocolate chips in your cookies, use chocolate bar. And I got crucified for it because I took a stance. And apparently on internet, you're not supposed to do that. I use chocolate chips for very few recipes. I make my homemade chip ahoy. I use chocolate chips because it's kind of iconic. Here, I have the traditional Toll House cookie recipe. I use Toll House chocolate chips in here. For my cookies, I use chocolate bar.
Right.
And here's the thing, with chocolate bar, you have more control. You have more control over quality, and you have a purer bar, and you can pick your grade.
Right.
With the chocolate chips, the grade can kind of vary. Bittersweet, dark chocolate chips. What does dark chocolate chip mean? And they don't go up. You can't get like a 85% cocoa solid chocolate chip, you know, but you can get an 85, 90, 100% bar.
Sure.
So what I do with chocolate, I'm going to ask you now what you did with yours. For my olive oil cookies, I do, because of the sweetness of the dough, I do chocolate. For often a bigger bowl of baking, we use bittersweet chocolate consistently. I do around 85%, a Lindt bar, 85% cocoa solids.
Yeah.
It's the perfect bitter complement to the sweet dough.
Yeah.
For the New York Times, they do, because it's the New York Times, they asked you to buy like 2 pounds of Valrhona, and that wasn't happening on our budget. So I got big bars of chocolate bars, and I chopped them up.
What
and
was
that
the
worked really well.
percentage of chocolate on that?
It was huge. It was like
No, but like how much cocoa?
Was it bittersweet?
Yeah, it was bittersweet chocolate.
Yeah. Oh, actually, do you know what? It was 60%. Yeah, it was. They asked for dark chocolate, 60%.
Oh,
I used bittersweet.
60, I think 60. It maybe still is bittersweet.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Maybe it starts 60 to 72.
Yeah.
These are the Toll House ones. And then Ami, what kind of chocolate do you use?
So I am a huge fan of semi-sweet or just like 50, no more than 55% chocolate, because I think it is overpowering. And
You're talking about ratio of
cocoa. Yeah. So I want like a lower end dark chocolate, or I want like a nicer semi-sweet. So Valrhona does like a 55%, Calabout does like sort of a 54, 53%. That percentage for me is perfect, because it doesn't, what I really want to taste I want to taste the cookie. I want to taste the butterscotch. I want to taste the salt. I want to taste all of those elements of the cookie. And I want the chocolate to just sort of highlight that. And I don't want if I find the percentage too high, all I taste is the chocolate, and I'm not tasting the cookie. So for me, it is really about finding that balance.
So you're less chocolate in your...
Less chocolate. So like I also use, I only use a cup of chocolate in my chocolate, in my batch of cookies, because I don't want to overpower. I will use this. I think I ended up using like a 55%, which is a little bit on the high side for me. It was just what I had in the house. But I would almost, if I had a milk chocolate and I had a bittersweet, I would definitely go milk chocolate over bittersweet. That's how strongly I feel about like how
I feel like I don't even know you.
I just, I've thought a lot about this.
Okay, Ami, so we talked about ingredients. Now I want to get into technique, because I think I know it is equally as important. So I'm going to talk about aging doughs. I never make a cookie dough, chocolate chip, whatever it is, the same day, and then I bake it the same day. I will plan to age it minimum 1 to 3 days.
Right.
Often you'll read it is suggested in recipes. For me, honestly, it's mandatory. Like, make any of my cookies and age them in the fridge. They say 72 hours. The New York Times, in the recipe, it says make your dough age for 72 hours in the fridge. And all it means is cover it up, keep it in the fridge for 72 hours. Then you can use it or you can freeze it. They don't recommend keeping it over 72 hours because of the eggs. I've done it for days.
Right.
In a place I worked in San Francisco, we would make sheets and sheets and sheets of cookies. And the longer that they hang around, and they're stored, the flavor develops. The liquid starts to evaporate out of the dough. So you're getting a more concentrated flavor in your cookie. It improves texture, flavor, and also gives you these insane kind of crinkles also on top. Right. So aging is as important as everything else, in my opinion.
Right. And side note, they have to be aged in the fridge. You cannot make a batch of cookies and age them in the freezer. They don't age because the liquid crystallizes and it doesn't actually hydrate the dough and do what it's supposed to do. Oh, you're eating. Okay, fine.
Well, I told you to eat and I was talking and then you just sat there looking at me.
I was listening to you. Okay, I'm going to try the New York Times.
72 hour New York Times.
Classic. Okay.
Strong flour and cake flour. 72 hours in the fridge.
See, I want to get a more centerpiece.
Until it's a little bit doughy. Do you know what? I could have...
This is good. I just wanted to try the middle part.
Let me tell you also,
Okay.
just while we're talking, this is a really simple tip. You think it's kind of obvious, but I never do it because I'm kind of lazy. Take stuff out of the oven, shove it on the side, on the counter, and then you walk off. When it comes to cookies, especially the gooey cookies, give them a minute on the tray, take them off the tray. They will continue to cook on the tray. I know it seems kind of minimal, but you think about it. You took them out of the oven and now they're sitting on a hot tray for the next 5-10 minutes. Get them off the tray. They're going to stop cooking. Is that a good one?
Yeah, that's really good.
It's obvious, but it makes sense.
But it's also like you can feel that the cake flour, and I mentioned earlier, like, oh, I don't know, but there's like a kind of a crumbliness, like kind of a pleasing crumbliness to it.
Now, don't they have good flavor, Ami?
They have really good flavor. And again, like the bittersweet chocolate is I mean, the cookie itself is flavorful enough that I think it's good.
Try one of mine. I just broke it open there for some reason.
Yeah.
I'm going to try one of yours. So I love yours. This is a perfectly baked cookie, Ami, nice and doughy.
Ooh, thank you.
Nice and I think mine might have gone a little bit over. So talking about timing and baking, for best results for chocolate chip cookies, I always recommend 375 degrees Fahrenheit for, 12-ish minutes or so.
Right.
But you often see recipes for these kinds of like lovely big crinkly chocolate chip cookies. If you want to get that gooey in the middle, you're talking higher oven for shorter amount of time.
I've tried 325. They spread too much. 375. They don't quite cook like those.
Can you tell me what brand of chocolate that is?
That is partly Trader Joe's and partly some Lithuanian off-brand because that's what I found at the grocery store I was in.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I really hope